Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Gabriel Diamond from Skoll Foundation, and I'm the video producer for Skoll. And I'm just going to kick us off a little bit by just sharing a little bit of a personal story about how this came about for me, which is I have this incredible opportunity of being the filmmaker to help tell stories from these incredible people around the world, and is really a dream come true job. And a few years ago, I started to wonder, like, some of the root issues around um, who's in power and who gets to lead also applies to who gets to tell the story. And I just started to realize maybe it would be better if it wasn't always me from the US coming into these different communities and creating these stories. And so what would it be like to create a program where filmmakers from the communities, closer to the communities, could have these opportunities to partner with local change making organizations and create stories from that perspective and to foster those relationships. So that's how the Solution Storytelling Project was born. We partnered with DocuBox, which is the East African Film Fund, a collection of nonfiction filmmakers based in Nairobi. And we partnered with the Video Consortium, which is the global coalition of filmmakers, nonfiction filmmakers, and to create the Solution Storytelling Project. And I want to pass it over to my colleague Debra Aroko from Video Consortium Project, and she can talk a little bit about what this project was like on the ground. She was really the on the ground producer that worked hand in hand with all the filmmakers and all the organizations. We had 19 filmmakers, 19 organizations partnered to do this, and then from there we'll pass it to the filmmaker and AVF. So Debbie, take it away, Debbie.
It's lovely to meet and see all of you. It's such a big turnout and so exciting to see you all here, ready to support the work that AVF and Clean Start are doing on the continent. So my name is Debra Aroko, and I am the programs manager for the Solution Storytelling Project. I work together with Gabriel, and my colleague Mungai to facilitate the creation of films such as the one you're about to watch and you're about to talk about during this meeting. So the Solution Storytelling Project, at the heart of it was, like Gabriel said, putting power back into the people's hands and allowing them to showcase the work being done in their own communities, using their own voice and creative vision to guide these stories and bring them to life in a way that is true and authentic to the communities that they're representing. And so we connected 19 filmmakers from across the African continent, from West Africa, East Africa, and South Africa, and connected them to amazing organizations within their own communities that are doing amazing work, impacting those very communities, and allow them to tell their story through Verite documentary. It was it was a journey. It was a risk on both parts because this hasn't really been done, at least at this scale, on the continent. And also, the approach was also quite risky. It was a risk on AVF and Clean Start's part as well, taking a risk and allowing the filmmaker to come in and tell a more creative, more holistic story that's different from what we're used to seeing and how we're used to seeing NGOs and organizations like this represented on the continent. But at the end of the day, it was a success. We have an amazing film telling the amazing story of Teresa Njoroge, who is on this call, and the amazing work that she's doing in Kenya with the support of AVF. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to give Eric a chance to talk to us and tell us what it was like working on this project for nearly a year.
Hi guys, my name is Eric Mwangi. Nairobi-based filmmaker, and I'm happy to be here. I'm a fellow from the Solution Storytelling Program that's being conducted by a Video Consortium, and Debbie is my producer. I want to say filmmakers have this incredible chance to enter people's lives and worlds that they have never known before. And when I met Siba for the first time, and after I had read what the AVF does, I think I was shocked at my ignorance because I never knew that there's a whole organization out there that is trying to change how funding is done towards African visionaries. And that really stood out for me. And so digging deeper, I saw this, at the time, very complex world of philanthropy just started unfolding in front of me. And I think that's what we've been doing for the better part of the year, up until I think August, September, when we started getting our final cut of the video. Speaking with Atti was quite an eye-opening experience as someone who's on a type of a driving seat, and Teresa also in her own right, and seeing these two worlds where it's sort of like they're leaning towards each other like this. And that's what I could see from this story. So it was all listening to the conversations and trying to get that film to merge together. And it worked out very well. So yeah, the short of it was that it was tough because of the fact that I did not know this world, but now I know.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, that's the journey of the filmmaker, is to dive deep into another person's world and then try to help them tell their story. So I want to pass it to Siba to tell us a little bit about what your goals were for this film. Why you said yes to this opportunity, and what you hope will happen with this piece.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gabriel, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sibabalwe Mona, and I'm the Systems Change and Advocacy Strategist at the African Visionary Fund. And it's been my pleasure and honor to serve as a story consultant on this project with all of these amazing people. So our goal for this film, this was an incredible opportunity to tell our story as a young startup that's still finding our feet and proving ourselves. And we are an intermediary fund, which means that we are in partnership with and in service of both African founded and led organizations that we grant to, and also funders that we fundraise from as well. And so there were many ways that we could have told our story. We could have told it from a technical standpoint or from a strategic standpoint of why our model exists. But our goal for this film was to really tell the deeper story, which really motivates us to do our work, which is how burdensome fundraising can be for African-led organizations, and how it's such a difficult, broken system to navigate. And so we really are driven by this idea of freeing people from this burden and this difficult task and this injustice that can feel personal at times. So we wanted to illustrate our theory of change at that level, at a human level, and to offer our manifesto of just how much impact can be achieved when leaders are freed from the barriers and burdens to funding, and when they're empowered to do what they do best. So there was a lot of intention behind how we told the story, and we're so grateful to our wonderful director, Eric, who walked this journey with us and understood us and was as intentional in telling this story really intentionally and beautifully. So thank you so much, Eric, and thank you, Teresa, for sharing your story, and I look forward to it.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Siba. Yes. Teresa, I want to pass it to you. What would you like the audience to know before seeing this film?
Thank you very much for having us, and indeed giving Clean Start Africa the opportunity to, share our story when it comes to fundraising and our search for resources to do the work that truly we believe needs to be done, and for us to see the change that we desperately want to see happen in Kenya, but indeed on the African continent. For us, we gave it our all because we strongly believe that we cannot be solving one inequality on one hand, which is the global inequality, by perpetuating another inequality on the other hand. And that is inequality when it comes to funding, as there's no justice there. And so if we are in this to solve the global inequality, let's do it in a just and fair way where we're not perpetuating another injustice. So I look forward to, the viewers looking at this as an acceleration to the decades of conversations that have been had around gender equality, decolonizing wealth, enough of talk, and let's get to the bottom of it and do what's right.
Thank you so much, Teresa. We're in for a treat getting to see you momentarily. And right before we watch the film, I want to pass it to Atti. Tell us a bit about what you hope the audience, what would you like them to know before we watch this film?
Thank you. My name is Atti Worku. I'm the co-CEO of the African Visionary Fund. I think Siba and Teresa have said it really well. What we really want people to understand is how all these systemic problems can be felt at a personal level. In the end, we're all humans doing this work. And especially when you commit your several years of your life to doing the kind of work Teresa does and all of our partners do, you have a personal commitment to that work. So all the rejection that could be explained away by process and system is felt at a personal level and has a personal impact on leaders and what they feel is their place in this ecosystem. And I also want people to kind of think about how at the fund, we're constantly learning, and we're just really grateful for all of our partners, for how much we learn from you and the journey that we are going on with you. And I think the rest we'll cover after the film, but generally just the challenge that African leaders face. Fundraising generally is difficult for everyone, but there's an added level, and it often ends up feeling like the odds are so stacked against you when all you're trying to do is just do some work for your community. And we're currently going through our grant making process, and this is something we've been hearing from everyone around the challenges they have with restricted grants and how much they feel like they're getting stifled from the impact they could have in their communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atti. And without further ado, let's play the film.
I had to spend a whole year at Langata Women Maximum Prison, which is the largest correctional facility for women in this country. They knew too well that I didn't deserve that conviction. Going behind bars with my infant daughter robbed her of her first year in this world, making memories with her loved ones. My first job.
You are a?
Guess.
I don't know. A pilot, someone.
I look like a cabin crew.
Yeah.
No, I worked within the hotel industry. You haven't changed much. Uhuru was chubby. Yes. This is the first team of formerly imprisoned women and men. That time we used to do men as well. Give this photo to Auntie Diana for her to see. 81% of all the women who've been through the criminal justice system did not get access to legal representation. If we've taken them through the justice system and didn't hear them out because they were not legally represented, they've come out to the same problem, the same issue. For us at CleanSat, we just want to see a user-friendly criminal justice system.
It's not too much.
Yeah.
It's just okay.
Yeah. We want to welcome Gonyo back into the free world. She just got her freedom after 23 full years. She's then going to leave to go to the city center. She's going to the government offices where she's going to get her ID. getting back into the system.
Thank you. Welcome. You're welcome. Oh.
It's the basic step-by-step of reintegrating back into society. We believe that those who are closest to the problem are also very close to the solutions.
So far, we have trained at least 178 women in 9 prisons across Kenya. Yeah. We intend to expand our scope to 20 counties and 20 prisons across Kenya. And by the end of the year, we intend to have trained at least 400 women.
Fundraising for this critical and urgent work has not been that easy. The unfortunate part is you think everyone will be drawn into the work and see the need and therefore fund, but then it's only opened another Pandora box. You're now having to deal with the injustices in the area that you want to bring change, and then the power imbalances in the funding world. And the unfortunate truth is that even as you're trying to bring the change that you're so committed to, you're forced and pushed to go over and above, to convince those with the resources that indeed you're the right person, that you can be trusted. I felt I had to overcome too many layers to get to where we are at today. But the more the funding world and the philanthropies believe and trust in you as the leader of your movement, your community, follows through.
Media platform was shut down, according to the watchdog Netflix. That came in the wake of a call by the Ethiopian.
I ran Seeds for over 13 years. Throughout the 13 years of running the organization, I saw the issues that I'm trying to solve now very clearly. I was often not really considered an expert. I wasn't given enough funding to grow. But at the same time, I can see an American or a Western person who's starting something very similar in Ethiopia or in Kenya or in Tanzania and raising millions of dollars. And it always just brought this question to me, why is this happening? If I'm gonna stay in this philanthropic space, the next thing I do has to be to work for a funder so that I can find a way to make a slight change into this challenge that I know that I've faced and I know other leaders on the continent face. So today's conversation is to figure out what else the comms team, the development team needs from partners so that we can add it all in one thing once a year. Obviously, there'll be times we'll add stuff as we need it. Thank you, Katie. My name is Atti Worku, and I am the other co-CEO of the African Visionary Fund.
So far, we have raised $6.5 million to invest in African visionaries.
I think the African Visionary Fund has finally gotten it right. Unburdensome application, unrestricted funding. I have just arrived back from the Skoll World Forum, thanks to the African Visionary Fund, because they understand that it's getting close and proximate to the funders that helps us to get to know each other and cut the deals. That's the beginning of funding. And what they've done by that is open more funding avenues for Clean Start's work.
Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're coming from. We are lucky enough to have our whole team together in Nairobi for this event, and we're so excited that you're here. Our long-term goal is to change how the philanthropic community views and funds African leaders. We're here today to unveil our third cohort of partners who are all proximate champions that uplift their communities with unique, transformative development solutions.
Visionaries should not have to spend 40 to 200 hours per quarter filling out grant applications. We will go now with Cyprian Omolo from Clean Start Solutions.
We work with women, children, and girls impacted by the criminal justice system. And so far, we have impacted about 4,000 women, formerly imprisoned and imprisoned women.
We always say that the people who are affected by the problem are best positioned to solve that problem. But if the money is not going to the people who are affected by the problem or to the people who live in a particular country, then the solutions are not going to be whole. I would like for once to see a partner set out a goal not a goal that is put to them by a funder, but their own goal as an organization, and they have the resources to actually achieve that. That's success.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for watching. Before we jump into conversation and dialogue about that, I want to actually give space, because this is I think a really personal film for many of us. Just it resonates, to take a few moments and reflect on what's alive for you right now, a comment, a harvest, a question, and take a few moments and just put that into the chat. And we'll be on mute and just allow that to populate the chat so we can see what's alive for everyone here. And then we'll jump into discussion. So as the comments continue to come in, I want to kick it off to Debra from Video Consortium to sort of lead us through this next part of facilitating a Q&A, and hear from AVF and Eric about the making of this film, about what's next, and I'll turn it over to Debbie.
Thanks, Gabriel. Thank you all for the questions that you've posted. I've been keeping tabs and kind of taking note of some of the questions that we have, and feel free to add more. I guess the first comment, a statement that stood out for me in the film and stood out for a lot of you, is when Teresa says the people who are closest to the problems are the ones closest to the solutions. And Teresa, there's a question for you. What was the logic, or what were you thinking when you quoted that? Such a powerful quote and such a heavy meaning behind it. So how did you get to that point? When did you come to this realization? And what does that mean for you?
Indeed, as we've been doing this work at CleanSat Africa, that reality continues to hit us, that the people who are closest to the problem are also closest to the solutions, even though they're the farthest, in most cases, from the resources and from the funding. And the frustration comes in that the people with the resources and the funding want to, let me use a soft word and say want to contribute towards how the solutions will be arrived at, which in most cases just interrupts the organic flow of how it should really run. You know, these are it's what I would conclude is by saying that, you know, you find the highest impact and you find the best solutions when you listen and hear out the people on the ground. And for us at Clean Start, we have found acceleration in the fact that we listen so much to those who are impacted by the criminal justice system. It has also really helped that, you know, Clean Start is run by those who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. And so you're speaking to the solutions from a first-hand experience. You know truly where the gaps are. So this comes from a very personal, very first-hand experience, even as we develop our strategic planning, including those who have been impacted by the solutions we're trying to come up with in the interventions, including them, really gets you closer to the solution faster. And even though they might not be coherent, maybe even though they might not be as fast and as quick as you, trust them and believe that sustainable change will come from listening to their voices. And I want to assure you, the best leaders are on the ground. The worthy organizations are on the ground, and that's where you find the worthy impact. So yes, the closest to the problem are closest to the solutions, even though in most cases, farthest from the resources. Ours is to find out how to make sure they're close to those resources.
Thank you, Teresa. That was so powerful. And it's made clear through your own work, because the greatest impact that you have on Clean Start is having that lived experience better. You know it better than any of us could have, and you articulate it so well and sympathize and empathize with those people that you know the need. And so in that bridging that gap between where the need is and where the money is coming from, Atti, there are a lot of questions about how AVF works. AVF's work could be replicated across the continent. And I saw one similar question from Central America, like, how can we do the same thing? And if we can't do the same thing, how can we support it? So yeah, let us know.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this has been an interesting week for us. We are in the final stages of our 4th round of grant making. And when we do our grant making, we do these virtual site visits, which are a 2-hour plus Zoom conversation with several people in leadership at the organizations that we're thinking about funding. And one of the biggest differences this year we've seen is as the number of organizations that were talking about how restricted funding is getting worse, and the restrictions are getting worse. So there's this move towards, even as big funders are thinking about localization, what's happening is there's a lot more implementation on their own. And that's kind of starting to really, for the lack of a better word, choke out all of the resources from local organizations. So we're seeing organizations that are just losing funding so rapidly because of that movement. And I think what can be done, you know, every funder is different, every group is different, but what can be done is really looking at, from a funder's perspective, considering a combination of, you know, where you're located and how do you make decisions for funding. So if you're thinking of replicating our idea, it really is just coming back to how do you make your funding less restrictive and more flexible? How do you try to reach organizations that are not usually going to come to you by trying to diversify your funding pool? And then the third is, once the relationship starts, how do you continue that relationship in a way that leaves room for organizations to do their work? And I think if you align on impact in the beginning of what you're looking for and what an organization does, to leave the kind of middle part of how they do it for the people who know how to do the work. I think as funders, we often want to think we know everything and we don't, and we often cause more harm because we think we know more than we do. So it really is just to curb that desire to want to say this is how things should be done, and to really see ourselves as part of the solution. Everybody brings different solutions to the table. And also, like, you know, we always say this, but to really diversify leadership. So when you have diversified leadership on who makes decisions on funding, a lot of times that helps to bring different thoughts and ideas into the conversation. And community engagement, really engaging the communities that you are working with and really looking at where's the power. And that starts with the desire to share power or give up the power, but that is really where the biggest question is. And I think in terms of how do you replicate this work, we are, like Siba said, an intermediary that raises funds from international funders and focus on funding local organizations in sub-Saharan Africa. And I think anyone really can do that as long as that's something that you're interested in. We would love to see, what we want to see is more funding going to local organizations all over, not just in sub-Saharan Africa, although that's where our focus is. We really just want to see that funding practice change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atti. And yeah, at the heart of it, if you are aligned on impact, then diversifying and giving the power back to the people. If impact and creating solutions is really what you want to do, then that should come easily to people. I wish it did. Maybe more education needs to be done, more conversations need to be had. And part of what we were trying to achieve with SSP and with these films is bringing together groups of people through this by watching a film, and then activating conversations that are meaningful and that move people towards understanding what could happen if you changed your approach. And speaking of filmmaking, Eric and Siba was the story consultant on the film, and Eric was the filmmaker. And a lot of people in the comments have mentioned how they were touched, their emotions were moved by not only what Teresa said, but her actions and her life story. So, Eric, what was it like following Teresa throughout her journey and coming to create this film that's not only like technically like educating us on a very important topic, but also taking us on a journey throughout, and see where you can also contribute to that as coming from the organization's perspective. But we can start with Eric.
Thank you, Debra. I think one of the things that as storytellers we have to be really careful about is we have to see ourselves in these characters that we're filming. Sometimes that bridge can be, that gap can be too wide. And so coming into this story, first of all, this is not an area I thought I was familiar with, but actually I am. Debbie, you're a producer, you're a creative mind as well. And so many times you have to apply for a lot of grants just to tell these stories that really, really matter to you. And you've clearly seen how in Africa, we don't have as many funds for that multi-year, the same thing that AVF does, that have been set aside for storytelling. And so on that level alone, you can empathize as a storyteller. So coming into it and just hearing Atti and Teresa speak about it, you already know where this story is going to go and kind of what you want to say about. And so here you just have to hone in on the specifics in the specific work that they do. And so I think I found that to be very personal to me and for many other storytellers who are really, really looking for money to tell these important stories that they have, especially through documentary. On a second level, I'd like to say organizations are now starting to realize the benefit of intimate storytelling as opposed to announcing what they're doing. Hey, look at us, we're saving the children. Okay, that's good and it has its place. But then, especially here in Africa, is there a way we can model a storytelling of a certain kind that shows you these people and upholds them in dignity so that it's not only looking like we're always borrowing money, you know, all across Africa. And that's something so, I mean, it just, there is another way we could do it. How about we go to the ground and we see what is happening? I'd like to say that for this film, I didn't get the opportunity to do that. I really wanted to go on the ground and I really wanted to see the work that is happening. But again, it's hindered by certain factors such as funding, whereby if I wanted to see the work that Teresa is doing in prisons, then I have, you know, to go through this arduous licensing process just to be able to film Atlanta. She gave me everything I needed just to be able to put that together with my editor, Abel Waweru. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I do not want to say, I feel you, Teresa, but I feel you. I think one of the comments I've seen there is someone's just said that Teresa made me feel seen. And I want to say mission accomplished. Mission accomplished, yeah.
No, absolutely. Because I mean, the journey is behind IVF, behind Clean Start is a human being that we can all relate to, going through things we can all relate to. And that is at the heart of storytelling. So Siba, from the organization's perspective, when we told you we want to do a character-driven verite film, how did you feel about that? And what was the process like for you from an organizational point of view?
For us, we knew that we would be centering our partners in this process because the AV Fund exists to serve our partners, and our story is our partner's story, and we take every opportunity to elevate those stories. And so when the challenge was to do a character-driven personal film, it was almost a no-brainer. We knew which direction we would go because these are the conversations we're having in our team all the time. And because we're an intermediary that is fundamentally trying to alleviate these tensions, the tensions sort of live in our organization. We are in the thick of things, trying to navigate exactly what we're trying to solve against. And so we feel it, just like Eric said, he feels it, we feel it on a deep level. And we also ask our partners these questions. So we've heard all of these stories that are painful, are hurtful. I could cry, and we just have this real deep drive to do right by our partners, to tell these stories, to do everything in our abilities to influence change. And so our advocacy strategy is based on talking to our funders or funders in our networks and influencing how they change their processes to be more equitable. But we always want to start with this part. Why is this important? Because people are suffering and they shouldn't have to. It's inefficient. It's bad for business. And this is just something that should change, not only because of the personal, but also because we're all moving towards sustainable development. We all have these goals for progress, and this is a hindrance for progress.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope that through this work and through this film, like some of those goals and some of those movements towards change and towards progress can be made, or at least conversations can start, and maybe organizations here can also see the importance of not only centering the impact you're having through your work, but centering the people who you are having the greatest impact on and allowing them to lead that narrative and tell that story. And yeah, there's so many good questions in the chat, Gabriel. What do we do about that?
Thank you. Yes, it's such an incredible conversation. And I'm hoping we have more time for that. And I want to invite everybody who's here to actually take a couple moments of a little mini call to action, a little mini 3-minute working session, so that the 109 people who are on this call right now can increase the impact of this film and of this story. And so one of the easiest ways we can do that in literally 3 minutes is I'm going to paste the link to the film, which we've just released on YouTube, right there. And you can click on that link, open it up in YouTube, and first watch the whole thing again. And then, but not right now. Then whatever comment you put in to the comments earlier on, you could just paste that comment in to the YouTube so that people on YouTube, which is by default one of the biggest platforms for people to share these kinds of stories, will see that there is engagement, that there is thoughtful engagement around this. If you have a question that you'd like Eric or Teresa or Atti or myself to answer publicly, you can ask us on YouTube as well. And what that does is it helps the YouTube algorithms to know that people care about this, people are engaged on this, they want healthy, positive conversation that creates change around those things. So take a moment, find your comment or add a new one in and put it into that YouTube link. Then the next thing that everyone can do is to think of a few people in your life that would benefit from watching this story, and share it with them. Share it on your social media, on in your newsletters. There's this term in the documentary world going around of an impact producer, because so many of us focus on, we really want to make a film, and they make the film and they put it out there and then nothing happens with it. And so making sure it gets seen by the right people at the right time is really the next step for this, and all the people here are the right people, and now's the right time. So while that's happening, I just will say a little bit more about the Solution Storytelling Project. We're wrapping up the Africa cohort of the 19 films. I'll paste a link so that folks can see the ones that have been released so far, and there's a small handful that are still yet to be released. And we have applications for the next cohort, which is in Latin America. And we're taking applications for Skoll-funded organizations doing work in Latin America, and also for filmmakers who would like to be paired with them. So I'll paste a link there as well. And I'm also going to paste links for how to get in touch with African Visionary Fund, Clean Start Africa, and find Eric Mwangi, the filmmaker, so that you can hire him for your project. And that's really, one of the goals for this is to give opportunities to the incredibly talented people on the ground on the continent. And then last, I'm going to paste a link to a survey that everyone is encouraged. It's like a 1-minute survey, really, just to let us know how we're doing with these premieres. We're figuring this out. What's the best way to do these, to give these films and the organizations and the filmmakers a moment in the spotlight. So I will paste those in, and with that, I'd love to turn it over to each person here. Share final thoughts. What would you like everyone here on this call to know, to do, to support the work, to further the work? And why don't I kick it off to Teresa first?
Thank you, Gabriel, and indeed everyone who has worked with us to make this a reality. We feel seen, we feel heard, and we truly hope that we will have the reality of being well-funded. The struggle of hand-to-mouth funding style is such a struggle that just doesn't give you enough time to be on the strategic things that you need to be planning. And I want to urge, the partners, especially with the resources and the funding, fund local visionaries, local leaders, who've got the solutions, who are on the ground. Working in one of the most difficult spaces in Kenya within the criminal justice system, with those who have been impacted by the criminal justice system, who have been overlooked, by the government, by the communities, going through so much stigma, uneducated, without economic opportunities, and then only to find a platform that's going through the very same issues that we're trying to solve, and that is being discounted. I think there's so much explaining and proving that you know what you're doing. And so I'd say fund local visionaries, support the work that they're doing without much complication. We're on the same page of allyship, of solving the problem. People have come such a long way to even get onto that table to have that discussion. Let's appreciate the efforts that they're putting in and joining hands to help them solve this problem and contribute towards the SDGs. So yeah, my conclusion, fund local and national NGOs better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Atti, pass it over to you. What's next? What's your call to action?
Well, I think my call to action is to really, we want to see more funders looking within and really thinking about how they fund and at what area they can make change. We want to, people to understand that as a fund, we are experimenting and innovating, and we want to continue doing that and learn with everybody. But generally, the challenge we're trying to solve, we want to see this solved everywhere, not just in Sub-Saharan Africa. So just adding to Teresa's point, we really want to see more funding going to local organizations. We want to see funding becoming less restrictive and more flexible. We understand that not every funder can give unrestricted grants, but they can be more flexible. So there's room for improvement, and that's what we want to see. I also really think that funding local organizations and putting the resources in the hands of the people who have contextual understanding to solve them is not just the right thing to do, but it's a really good business decision because the impact is more sustainable and it's deeper. It has a way that it empowers communities beyond just the work that's being done. Lastly, I want to say that I hope all of our partners and other organizations that share the struggle feel seen and heard and represented through this film. And we're really grateful for you, Teresa, for the work you do, and for all of our partners, the work you all do. For some of you who are in attendance today, thank you. The Skoll Foundation, the whole team here, thank you guys for Eric for working with us and all the changes. We totally changed what you were envisioning. But you are patient, and Siba for your vision in how this was gonna work, and for everyone, honestly, this has been such a pleasure. I hate seeing myself on film or hearing my own voice, but you made it bearable, so thank you for that. And again, for the funders, there are plenty of tools out there to figure out how to do this better. And if you have questions, please come to us. We're happy to support anytime. Yeah, I'm just really grateful, and I just want to see more change. There's more organizations can do when we're not putting a straitjacket on them on how they do their work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Eric, final thoughts that having told this story.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. And thank you so much, everyone who has come to witness this film. I feel like I've watched it also for the first time. And I really thank you for showing up today just to, witness this. I think for final thoughts, I am happy that I'm speaking to leaders of organizations and people who are at the forefront of funding or somehow relate to the kind of work that Skoll, African Visionary Fund, or DocuBox and Solution Storytelling Project does. And what I want to urge African visionaries, those who are at the top of the organizations, and those who are in funding, please dedicate more resources to storytelling. We are your partners for advocacy. As you advocate on your website and on your social media platforms, storytelling like this can go a long way in meeting your objectives, and we are available. The second thing I want to address is corporate culture. Corporate culture has really, what we mean as artists by corporate culture is where artists are not considered as part of the important work that organizations, the objective that perhaps, Teresa, you want to achieve. And what that can do is that it can impact your own message, because the artist is not really respected as they're supposed to. And so I urge African visionaries and leaders who are at the forefront of their organizations, when they are engaging an artist, give them the resources they need and engage with them in a collaborative way so that your vision is seen. Access is very important to us. Atti, the kind of access you gave me, I have never received from anyone. And even though some of the scenes are deleted scenes, I still appreciate that kind of access. Let me tell you something. It's not important, especially it's not easy, especially in documentary filmmaking. Access to characters is big currency. And if you know a filmmaker who respects access, who respects, storytelling on that level, then please engage them on that level and recommend them. Take the name forward, because we as storytellers are your partners in advocacy, and we see things you cannot see. We know how to communicate with music. We know how to communicate with sound effects, so that someone here will say, Teresa made me feel seen. We know how to understand your world, even though we are not in it, and we know how to bring it to the world. And the final thing is a thanksgiving to Siba for making it so easy that I realized how traumatized I am, because I think I was ready for engaging with Siba, but she made it so easy for me to do my job. And I realized I have been abused before, and this is the right thing. And so, thank you so much, Siba. That was such an amazing, and thank you so much. I could cry. Thank you so much for making it easy for me to do my work, and making it easy for me to make the choices. Even at the point where we were supposed to compromise, it was so easy to compromise, because I know you are for me and you know I am for you. And so with that in mind, we are able to work together. And, Debbie, you have always been there for me. Gabriel, thank you so much for facilitating this. This is not the first time. I'm so happy to have worked on something that you are at the top of, Gabriel. And I just want to say thank you. Keep doing the work that you're doing. And in you resigning from storytelling in Africa, not so many people can do that, because, but you did it. And you did not start with this project. You started in 2019 when you came to Kenya, and you actually put forward that first cohort of storytelling, this kind of storytelling. So this is the second time I'm experiencing that type of kindness and the realness of the work that you're doing. So thank you so much. I think that's all I have to say. Let's, we are your partners. Hire us. Peace.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Well, I want to respect everybody's time. It is 10:03 here in California, and we're a couple minutes late. So thank you to everybody who came out to make this happen. We will follow up with a link to the recording of this premiere, and just huge gratitude to all. And we will onward. Share the film, comment, and bless the work that so many people here are doing. It's a real ecosystem of change makers. And so thanks to everybody for showing up for this. It's hard to say goodbye, because it's so sweet to see the final comments come in.
Yes, we're looking at the final comments.
We'll just give a couple moments of the final comments to come in and share the joy, and then we'll end the meeting in a moment or two.
Yes, convert your numbers into relatable stories.
Someone said funders are looking for impact. They don't fund organizations, they fund impact. How do we tell stories of our impact? That was the one that really stuck with me, because all I could think of is they should fund organizations and not impact. But but the reality is, if that's the case, how do we also help people tell the story better, right? So
you can curate packages for storytelling for people, and and then and from the 19 films that have been produced, 20 films I think, they're spread out all over Africa, and you can just see the amazing work that everyone is doing.
Yeah.
Impact is so interesting because on one hand, it's like you want to just have numbers, but then when you watch a story and you hear somebody's truth and your heart cracks open and your world has gotten bigger and you have more empathy, how do you measure that impact? And so these are the questions I think so many of us are sitting in.
Yep.
We're always like trying to figure out how can we measure our advocacy impacts. And for me, like, it's enough to just this chat box, that's enough for me. Like, that is, we know that it's working, or the message is coming across. And this project is so meaningful because even though we can't measure it, we know that shifts are happening. It's all worth it.
Yeah. I mean, when people's hearts and minds are unlocked, their resources become unlocked as well. And the closed minds become so.
Yeah, in the end, it's people who make these systems, right? And make decisions.
Yeah. And I think change is less scary when there's connection and love. And when there's lacking, then we want to keep boundaries and power structures as they are. I know for me as a storyteller, I've often felt like, oh, stories, what good do they actually do? Like it's not putting food on a table. But we all have our gifts to bring in different ways.
Yeah, and I think even just if organizations want to communicate data, there's a creative way to do it. I mean, the day one of filming, we were with Siba and everyone else was in the room, and they had just made this video that was a lot more of like a report of what they've done. And it was interesting to watch. It was short, it was sweet, and it was animated, and actually using a local post house here in Kenya. So even if it's that, there's a way to do it.
Lovely. All right, I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you all so much. What a honor. Wonderful work.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Lovely seeing you.
Teresa, thank you. Eric, thank you so much. More and more.
Thank you for having us.
All, and see you all soon. I'll let you all know when I'm back in Nairobi. It will be sometime next year, but thank you.
Okay.
Santini.
Bye. Have a good day, evening.
Yeah, bye.